Hello, good evening. I'm Heda. I live in Bangkok. I'm a single mom. I have two kids. They're 15 and 11. You might be wondering why I always start my videos with this, and it's because I think people need to know who they're listening to, and it's not easy, I believe, to be listening to a message when you don't know who the person is who's saying it. Okay, I started talking about nationalism earlier, and I'm gonna finish up what I was saying. The last bit is about that we must extend our hand to other Filipinos, to our fellow Filipinos, whether we are abroad or we are in the Philippines. And the reason for that is because we need each other's help. And especially abroad, I think it is even more important because we have been uprooted from our support system. And so it's really hard not to have somebody that you can talk to, that you can go to for help. And so I think nationalism can also be part of that. And I have asked some of you for your own stories or your own definition of what nationalism is. And I think some of you would agree with me on that one too. Okay, the next bit that I want to talk about is, I think this is one of the most important things, why some of us, or many of us, if not all of us, feel there is a certain urgency to the reforms that have to happen in the Philippines. And I feel there are three biggest reasons why we must act now. The first one of which is because I believe that the OFW phenomenon is causing a lot of family and marital breakdown. Why is that? Kasi, like in Iloilo, for example, that's where I come from. There, I think we have the highest number of seafarers. Ito po yung mga seamen. And one of the things that I have observed, that I have heard in terms of the stories that my friends and my family tell me the last few times that I've gone home, is that a lot of marriages have broken down because of the distance. Before, it was even harder. Ngayon, I think seafarers actually have a choice as to whether they would go for 3 or 6 months or a year. They get paid more if they stay on board longer. But the downside of that is of course they don't see their family, they don't see their wives, they don't see their children for a long time. Now, some of the things that have been shared with me is this, and I know this from very close friends and from very close family members, that this is happening back home. One is that there are wives who have gone into gambling, and because they have money, and so they have time, and maybe because they want to entertain themselves, because they're bored, if their children are already a little bit grown up, and when their children are in school, they have nothing to do. Perhaps they can afford to have a maid. Okay, so there's no housework to do, so they have gotten into gambling. And one of my friends has actually lost their house because, okay, the wife had so much debts to pay, and eventually she wasn't paying their monthly payments anymore. And so that was sad. And eventually the couple had to break up. And I don't mean that the only reason for that is because of the distance that they have to go through or that they have to live with. Okay, perhaps there are other reasons. But it seems to me that is happening according to the feedback that I have been getting from some of my relatives and some of my friends. And also, I have some other friends here who also had family marital breakdowns, and their reason is the same. They get lonely, they need support, it's very hard, and then they just found somebody that they could relate with, and they can speak to, and who has their back, so to speak, while they are abroad. So I think that's a very, very important thing. And then there's also last night in Bangkok, when Duterte was here, he also talked about children who are sometimes, if not a lot of times, have gotten into drugs. And the reason for that is because they don't have their parents with them to guide them. And perhaps because they have money that they can spend. Or perhaps, okay, they also get sad, they get lonely. And so perhaps that's how they went into, that's probably one of the reasons why they went into drugs as well. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it seems to me like these things are happening. And I'm just lucky, and I think a lot of Filipinos in Thailand would feel the same, because in Thailand you can actually bring your family over, or you can raise, okay, your children here. It is a situation, it's a work situation that allows us to do that. So, but I know that other places, okay, don't allow that. So we need to think about this. And even if our children are being raised by somebody who is responsible and loving, who is a relative of ours back home, it's not the same when a child does not grow up with his or her parents. I saw one video one time during the campaign time that was shared, because I know that the OFW sentiment was very high during the campaign time. And one of the videos was really heartbreaking. It showed a father and his daughter. They were at the airport, and the daughter was trying to tell the dad not to go. And she was clinging to his legs and crying, and just basically going crazy with sadness. You can feel it, you can hear it. It's so palpable that, you know, you would shed tears for seeing something like that, especially when you yourself can relate to it. And so the OFW phenomenon is, I think it is a very, very alarming thing. And I think there was an article that came out one time, okay, years ago, when it was talking about our Filipino children. And I think the title of that article was The Motherless Generation. And, you know, if you are a parent, or you are a child of somebody who's gone abroad, you can relate to this. And so why must we have these reforms now? Why must we support this government? It's because this is the only government in my entire life that I have seen to be effecting changes that actually answer the needs of the people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my experience. And so if you are resonating with that, so that's probably why you are here and watching these videos, because these things are happening to all of us, and we need to be talking about them, because none of our politicians before Duterte came wanted to talk about them. And I was really kind of upset, and I think I don't know, when Lenny was talking in her pre-recorded video to the UN, something in me just snapped. And that was the reason why I came up with, I think, 4 videos last week. So this account is actually a week old tomorrow. And the reason for that is because while she was talking on the video, what came to my mind was, does this VP of ours even know what she is doing? What is her purpose or her goal when she started her video? Did she even think about those of us who are abroad and who have to kind of do some damage control because of the video that she has shown to the world? So there was something that I saw on a video, on a live streaming from Rado Gatchalian of Sydney. Senator Risa Hontiveros was there, I think last night. Yes, last night. And the Filipino community were also asking her some questions related to the video. And one of the things that came up there was that Risa was saying, in answer to a question that the community member asked, her question was, so, Senator, what do you suggest we could do here outside while we are abroad in order to kind of answer or make or turn people's minds around, because we have to deal with all these stories that are coming out from the international media, and they are not painting such a great story about our president, and those are untrue. And so Risa Hontiveros came up with certain things that she felt was something that we could do. You can watch the video, follow Rado Gatchalian if you wanted to see that. But one of the things that came at me like really strongly was this. After Risa's answer, the same community member who asked that question told her in a reply that Senator Risa, I think you did not really answer the question, because you know what? We already know that we are an excellent group of people, that here abroad we work very hard. We are resilient. Okay, we already know those things. And so I was proud, okay, to hear that our kababayan knows and is acknowledging and is reaffirming the fact that we are working hard, we are resilient, and we have certain things that we contribute as a working group outside the country. But also, it was kind of alarming for me to sense that, not necessarily Risa, but it just came to my mind that it seems like a lot of our public officials don't have their hand or their heart, okay, on the true pulse of the people, the true needs of the Filipino people. I'm wondering how many of them actually understand, okay, what it's like to live abroad, what it's like to work abroad without your support system. When you are broken up as a family, you are not as strong because, okay, there's a part of you somewhere else, one ocean away, or maybe more oceans away, and you don't know what's going on with them. They're not there when your loved ones are sick, or they have a birthday, or they have a celebration. So it's hard. And I'm wondering, what about the people who are working in the Philippines under this contractual system that we have? I do know some people who do that, and it seems to me like it's such an insecure feeling when every 6 months, okay, you don't have a job, or you have to find another job, and then you don't have health insurances, and then you don't have a contract for a year, so you don't know whether you can send your children to school. because after 6 months, you don't know whether you're going to be able to pay the tuition fees and all that. So these things that affect our families, whether they're social, economic, they have to change. They must change. And one of the reasons why I think the Filipino community in Thailand really have a strong, how do you say this, a very, let's say, jubilant welcome to last night's event when Duterte was here, is because we can see what we can do with our country very clearly, because Thailand is very similar to the Philippines and they have made so much progress, and we can do too. We can do too the same things, okay, under this government. And that's why we need to support this government, and we need to act now. The third thing that I think we need to look at and do is this is something that Duterte talked about yesterday. We need to go back to our land and to acknowledge the fact that we are an agricultural country. Our economy relies on it in such a big way, and our people, our farmers and our fisher folks we really have to help them and modernize our farming, modernize the way we do stuff in our agricultural system, because that is our main resource. And if you have been following Manny Piñol, you know that every single day that man just does something in order to help the Filipino people. When Duterte told him that he was going to be the Secretary for Agriculture, he embarked on this project called Biyaheng Bukid, and I was following him, and he practically covered every province in the country from north to south. What did he do? He talked to farmers and to fisher folks. He listed what their needs are. He also came up with what are the resources that are available to them. And then, so after his Biyaheng Bukid was done, he was ready to tackle on the problems and to implement solutions. And the biggest impact that I think had a lot of effect on how Manny Piñol's projects and programs hit the ground running is because he himself is a farmer. He himself knows what are the challenges of a farmer, because he is one. But at the same time, he also was a government official. And so that kind of experience and that kind of qualification is something so remarkable in my view, because it just creates and it has an effect that is, I think, in terms of magnitude and in terms of how it could really affect people long term in terms of self-sufficiency. It really does, such a big thing. And that is only one person who is working under this Duterte government. And I feel there is so much potential for the Philippines and for the Filipinos. And so how can we help? How can we act? See, the Filipino, when people say Filipinos are so sensitive or so emotional, I cannot agree with that. I think what we are is a passionate group of people. And so we need to channel that passion into something more positive. So how can we do that? So take up something. Take up a project. For example, if you have been following Paula Defensor Knack, Knack, she is the sister of Miriam Defensor Santiago. She has posted on her page that if we wanted to turn the international media's ill effects on how people look at our government and our country right now, you can actually write letters to certain organizations that have been affected by all these bad media exposure. And so she has actually listed who those people are that you can write to if you wanted to do that. Okay, so that would be great. Okay, if you don't want to join the conversations, then do that. Okay, share these videos on the site if you feel that they are useful. And then I think the most important thing too is that we need to stop cursing each other. Cursing in the sense that it becomes reasonable, or we just curse somebody just because they are supporting another party, or they are supporting the yellow brigade, so to speak. Although there are people that I have actually blocked on my Facebook page even during the campaign time, and the reason for that is because they are so vicious. They are vicious and they don't listen, and they are close-minded. And I don't want to have friends who are like that, because you know what? It affects me. If they have a certain energy that is dark. So I blocked them. And then I do welcome opposing views, but then if it gets to a certain extent where I feel that the person is not really listening, but is just there to just argue just because they like arguing, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say my last piece, and then I'm going to say that I'm going to stop doing this because you're not listening. There's no point in talking to somebody who's close-minded. Why do you want to waste your time with that? There were people who've said, okay, why am I doing this? Okay, there was feedback from one person who said, nagmamarunong daw ako. I'm not. I don't feel I am. And if you guys feel that I am, okay, then please, okay, give me feedback so that I can get, to ground zero. Back to ground zero, so to speak. What I'm doing is just this. I am a mother, and I would like to have a better Philippines for my children. They were born in Thailand. Their first language is English, although they do understand when I speak in Ilonggo, and they do understand when I get angry because I curse in Ilonggo. And so I want a better Philippines, and if you want to have that, we need to act now, because I truly feel that if we don't, we might miss this opportunity. We have somebody right now in our government, the head of the leader, the highest office in the land, is trying to effect positive changes in our country in order to help alleviate the problems of our people. So let's do something about that. If you find this video useful and the other videos in this page, share them, and I'll see you again. Bye.